purpose with Living in Serenity. This is a program based on the book Perante Jesus, Before Jesus, a book that was signed by Chico Xavier back 30 years ago and published and now coming about in the English-speaking language. And here we have an opportunity to share with you messages that shall boost our serenity. Why do we need serenity, right? Serenity is this beautiful and important virtue that we need to cultivate, especially at times of challenges. The current times are perfect for the practice of serenity. When everybody is afraid, is scared, what do we do? What to do? So here we come, the practice of serenity. But we cannot conquer it alone. It's a collective practice. We do it ourselves, but we have the higher spirits who are joining us. So many people say, but Vanessa, it's so hard. I can do it. I can't do it myself. But don't worry, you are not alone. You think we are alone? No, and that's the beauty of life. When we feel that powerful strength, it comes from the divine beings that are teaming up with us for the progress of everyone. So, again, living in serenity is not only possible, but it's just an effort away. It guides us in the process of developing, expanding the ability to be serene. Okay? So, welcome to Kardec Radio. I can see friends who are here. I can see Carol Correia, welcome to Kardec Radio. Thank you, Carol. Hello, Paula. Welcome to Kardec Radio. Thank you for joining us. Hello, Ellen Swift. Welcome to Kardec Radio. And Patty Soares. Welcome to Kardec Radio. Nora Brazil. Hello, Nora. Big hug to you. And we see here, I can see John the Rosa. Thank you, John, for joining us. And I see also Daisy Gallen. Thank you, big hug to you. And Luciana Nicoliello. Hello, friend. Big hug to you. And Gione. What a joy. Gione Correia. Big hug to you, to Aloysio, to our beautiful Vanessinha. Not so much Vanessinha anymore. Full-blown woman. Livia Brady. Big hug to you, Livia. To you, your daughter, everyone there, right? Jailton. Hello, Jailton. Hello, Teresa Castro. Hello, Sol Souza. Who needs serenity? Raise your hands. 2 hands. And the feet. Everything. We need serenity, right? You and I, everyone. But you know, the beauty of it all, as Mentor Joseph was sharing, we can conquer it because we're not alone. Sometimes we think it's hard to achieve certain levels of virtuosity, but remember, we have the guardian angels and the protecting spirits, and right now, more than ever, we need serenity. And I'll share this with you. Right now, people are concerned about coronavirus. Should we be concerned? We will dedicate very soon a program at Kardec Radio about the coronavirus, the material, spiritual understanding of it all. But as we receive the guidelines by mentors tonight at the Spiritual Society of Virginia, we need to trust in God. God knows what's going on with us. God knows the transformation moment. It's a collective expiation. It is. And what does that mean? It is a moment when we are all being invited to the selection of thoughts, feelings, words, and actions. We need to select our values, our priorities. You know, we can no longer postpone our priorities, which are and shall be the spiritual goals. The material goals, they work to the benefit of it. And we also need to cleanse our emotions, reconcile, forgive, forget, move on, press on, and do the good. We'll talk more about it very soon. Hello, Alicia Ramos. How are you? Rihanna, big hug to you too. I can see you here. Today, the chapter is, yesterday we talked about Jesus himself, answers that he gives to us in our daily lives. And today, it is the message Emmanuel brings to us through Chico Xavier. It's short, you can see here. It's not long, but it's deep. It says, before the Divine Master. The book we're reading is titled Before Jesus. This one, the chapter 7, is titled Before the Divine Master. Before we read it, assessment question. Do you recognize that you need a master, an educator, a guide and model in your life? Because if we don't, it's useless to look at Jesus, keep looking, and what is that all about? Emmanuel, the instructor, and I say this because the master is Jesus and Emmanuel is the instructor. He is asking us to look at Jesus as our master. Do you recognize Jesus as your master? Or are we still creating idolatries for people who are here on earth in an unneeded way? Jesus is not God, but he's our master. And what do we do? How do we have a relationship with a master? So tonight, Emmanuel is asking us to calibrate our sense of the relationship we have with Master Jesus. He's saying, look at him as your educator, as your master, as someone who is coaching you to achieve higher degrees. That's what he's inviting all of us to do, so we can boost serenity. So now we're ready, right? Let's look at the master. Do we accept him as a master? It's up to us. There's no imposition. But when we do, we're going to start seeing things we've never seen before. Maybe that's what is being missing in our lives. To recognize Jesus as a master that is pointing to the direction of our development, like a teacher to students. Come with me. Let's do this. Let's work this way. And we just follow through like good students. Emmanuel begins this chapter by quoting Matthew in chapter 27, verse 23. What harm did he do? Asked Pilate. But more and more they cried out, be crucified. Ay, 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 right? Ay, ay, ay. Jesus Christ, says Emmanuel, condemned without guilt, defeated and victorious, deeply loved, violently fought. Of all the titles, he preferred that of master, although he should in the supreme trials recognize himself abandoned by the disciples. Of all professions he practiced one day, that of a carpenter, aware that he would not have for the ministry of his appeals and teachings, nor the culminations of earthly power or golden galleries, but rather poor boats carved in the adze service the chisel blows. Sovereign of eternity, Jesus allowed the crown of thorns to be applied to him, allowing himself to be lifted in a frame made up of two juxtaposed wood in two distinct lines. He who declared himself combining the way, the truth, and the life, offered himself to the extreme renunciation in a pledge of similar revelation, suspended in the last hours on the vertical line that symbolized faith, rising up on the way to heaven, and on the horizontal line which expressed love, feeding life towards all creatures, as if to tell us that he on the cross was the tortured and silent truth between faith and love, sustaining itself clearly, raised to divine justice, beaten and tortured by humanity, but with open arms. I'm not gonna cry, but I feel truly moved. Do you feel it? Do you feel it? For many people, this moment is the moment in which we are pre-Easter, the season of Lent, and people are working on their fasting, though we Spiritists do not formally do it. But it is always good to go through the fasting of our bad conditionings and the boosting of our virtues, and meditating deeply, deeply on our Master. So he says here, Jesus Christ. We all know that Christ is a category, spiritual category, the Christ spirits. When we go to the book On the Way to the Light by Emmanuel through Chico Xavier, in the first chapter, we get to know that there are other Christ-like spirits, not only Jesus. So he is one of that category that made himself human to teach us about real humanity, as Emmanuel portrays clearly in the description of a message in the book Our Daily Bread. So he is modeling for us real humanity. But he was condemned without being guilty, and he was defeated between amongst people, but victorious before God. He was deeply loved by some, but violently fought for by others. Pause. He said that if you and I, or anyone else, follows his footsteps, you also experience similar things. You may be loved by many due to the choices you made in your life, but also persecuted, brutally persecuted by other people. We see the same in Spiritism and in any field of human action, and I say Spiritist movement. Talking about titles, Jesus himself decided, and he preferred the title of a master. He decided to embrace it, though in his supreme difficulties, the disciples abandoned him. And this is a lesson for us. Jesus as a master is a lesson from A to Z. From birth to death to after death, he is teaching us about life. He is our guide and model, and at every experience he's teaching us that when we go through our own trials, we may be alone, apparently alone. The disciples abandoned him, but God did not. Remember when Peter asked Jesus, how come you're the Messiah? How can God allow this to happen to you? At the Last Supper. And remember when Jesus turned to Peter and said, yeah, Peter, now evil is speaking through you. Ignorance, that's what he meant. We didn't know anything. Much like Peter, we still have the illusion that when we embrace a life that prioritizes spirituality, we feel that we're going to conquer the world. But I want to share something with you. In this book, On the Way to the Light, tonight at the Spirit Center of Virginia, at the spiritual treatment, we were able to read this and meditate as well on chapter 119, The Way, the Truth, and the Life by Emmanuel. He titles it Christian Glory. And he says, in a realm where so many easy glories are sought for, the glory of the Christian is the most profound and the most difficult. The victory of the follower of Jesus is usually on the side opposite that of worldly triumphs. It is the side that is hidden and few are able to see it with mortal eyes. Why are we emphasizing this? Because many people who embraced the teachings of Jesus, the teachings of Spiritism, and the universality of these teachings throughout any other things, they have the illusion that once they embrace it, their lives will not have any problems anymore. That's an illusion. Why? Because we're choosing the less traveled road. The road that hasn't been experienced by many. So people don't understand you. You may be here at 11 p.m. and people are like, why you're doing that? It's okay. How can they understand what they don't know? And say, yeah, yay, great, and glorify. This glory won't come for us. And that's what Judas thought. Judas had this mentality, thinking when the authorities of the world embrace it, then we're going to do what we need to do. No. That's twisted mindset. It's not going to happen this way. You think Spiritism is going to be spread out when Oprah becomes a Spiritist or includes a Spiritist book in her book club? I pray that this doesn't happen. Vanessa, don't say that. I do. You know why? Because we're living in a world where people, they damage the most sacred beauties. And as Kardec said, the truth will come at the right time, not to be smashed. It will come now. We can no longer afford failing it. Humanity needs these teachings, but we need to come at the right time. So we disseminate, but we know that people will join in from inside out, not outside in. In the ancient religious traditions, We used to impose, especially Christianity. People used to use it to impose, not Jesus, but imposing the belief. We don't. And we need coherence. It's beautiful because we've been talking about spiritist events, inviting us to a new form of dissemination that Kardec Radio has been working for 9 years. This year, 9 years. We need to spread out to the greater world. Sharing, 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 sharing. But at this time, we're being asked to be coherent. I can't spend the whole day in a spa and come here at 11 p.m. sharing these teachings and spending my whole day nothing about our suffering. And it's hard and difficult to spend the day working towards assisting people who are sick, who have issues in their minds, etc. But that's what it is all about. And that's why this road is difficult, as Emmanuel says. Okay? Okay, so I see Julija here. Yay! Welcome, Julija. Long time no see you. Okay, so let me see. Teresa Castro is saying, had the disciples defended Jesus, they would have all been killed. Who would have carried the good news? You know, Teresa, I see your point. I don't know, to tell you the truth, I don't know how the story of Jesus, the experience of humanity would have been. I don't know, sincerely. I'm not capable of visualizing a different route. I'm limited. We can probably create the hypothesis of this, that, and the other. I agree with you, but I don't know. What we know is that since ancient times, the prophecy said that potentially we would take that route. But not everybody did. Like John, the evangelist. He didn't fight for Jesus, but Jesus wasn't asking to be defended. And that's the beauty of the Master. He just asked us to position ourselves. So like John was the disciple that was there by the cross. He didn't defend Jesus ostensibly, but he was there. Peter had a different trial. Of course, he was the closest one to Jesus for so many years. He was the one that sheltered Jesus for years, with whom Jesus worked for years. It belongs to the context that Peter was differentially challenged at that hour. He was asked by people, what about you? Are you a disciple? Aren't you the one who is with him, etc.? If he said yes, would he have died? I don't know, maybe. Why did he have to go through this? I don't know. I know that we go through this nowadays. We do. And we may not be killed physically, but we are put aside in so many ways. We are. I have been a spiritist my whole life, and I've experienced discrimination in Brazil several times. And that's because I come from a generation that was more open-minded. But my mother, my grandfather, grandmother, granduncles, and others, they have stories to tell about how they were discriminated. My grandmother said when they were going to school several times, they would enter the classroom and the kids would say, "Ooh, here come the witches." I remember in school, when I was 7 years old, two girls saying, "Oh, aren't you the little witch?" Today I would say, I didn't reply. I probably didn't even understand what it meant. And it didn't hurt my feelings either, because I was trained by the family not to worry about it. But today I would probably have said, "Yes, I am." Not joking, of course. But if you think that that's a witch just because I believe in the afterlife and reincarnation, be my guest. It's okay. So in a way, we're still being persecuted, if not in the very families. How many times I've seen people saying, "Oh, here you come, and you believe in this," or "If you visit us, please don't say the things that you believe in." I remember coming with a boyfriend to his house, and the father said, "Go in, my son. Let me talk to her." First time I met him. And he said, "Hold on. Do you believe in Jesus? Are you a spiritist? Do you want to convert my son?" And I said, "Of course not." So, am I going to deny? No, I'm not a spiritist. Nowadays, through social media, I don't hide it from people at my profession that I believe in what I believe. Some people may go away thinking, "I don't want to go do anything with you." They may not say it, but they act like it. So the same experience happens nowadays. And maybe things would be much easier if we denied. Materially easier. But like Peter, tortured by the conscience. Because when you go to the book Good News, you see what happened to Peter. How that triple denial hurt his conscience in the long run of immortality. It did. You can tell. For John the Evangelist, it was his sleepiness that really made him feel guilty. For each one of them, different things, okay? So we would say, of all professions he practiced, that of the carpenter. You see how Emmanuel is kind of philosophical, poetic, and quite scientific. He's saying he's a carpenter. He is put on a cross made of wood. It seems to be an irony in life, right? You're a carpenter, you work on wood, and then you die at the cross, which is made of wood. And he says to all of us, sovereign of eternity, he was allowed the crown of thorns to be applied onto him and to be put on this wood that has two distinct lines. So this is the beautiful part of it, as we're talking about the glory of the Christian. From this book, The Way, the Truth, and the Life, Emmanuel reports to that as well, saying to us, he who declared himself the way, the truth, and the life, offered himself to the extreme renunciation and suspended in the last hours on a vertical line that symbolized faith. So faith pointing to heaven, as he says here, and the horizontal line expressed by love towards everyone, and he himself the truth. So if you go back to the way, the truth, and the life, right? We're talking about faith being the way, truth being the good news of Jesus, and the life, love, love, love inside of us. and tortured the silent and tortured truth. To date, we all suffer from not having enough courage to face the truth. Remember the book Memoirs of a Suicide? We saw how many spirits have a hard time facing their very truth, the truth about ourselves, previous lives, and the future that is ahead of us. Right now, at this very moment of the coronavirus, we are all being asked to be faithful. So faith. We need faith, he's saying here. The vertical line, faith. So let us visualize ourselves working towards elevating us, having this certainty that life is coordinated by God. And keep loving one another. Now it's our time to advocate for positive thinking. Remember, at Jesus' time, leper was like the coronavirus. The difference is that they didn't have internet, the news, the knowledge. But leper was contagious. And people were being sick and their lives transformed, pushed away from the daily things. And what did Jesus teach us? To be faithful. Let us tell ourselves, I trust in God. I trust in God, the vertical. And I trust so much that I'm going to keep sharing this with people. Right? Not sharing a cough or a sneeze. That we can't. At the times of coronavirus, and even in polite ways of being, we can't. Not sharing the germs. Sharing the germs, no please. But sharing the illumination, the teachings, being positive. Let us choose to be the ones who are optimistic. Shall we, friends? No matter what happens, let us trust in God, because as Mentor Joseph says, the coronavirus is like a broom of the beyond that is coming to cleanse so many things that are wrong. So many things that are in need of being revisited. And this is the time. This is the time when we are going to rediscover how precious it is to be at home. Because we've been always running away from home. And now, because of these times, we have to rediscover the pleasure of being at home. And with Jesus, it becomes all the more pleasurable, because he's teaching us that we're not alone. We have guardian angels, that we're together for a purpose. Let us do our part and know that if he exemplified the beauty of combining the truth with love and faith, it is on us as the disciples, as the students, to work on it. What are we going to do in the next 24 hours? What are we going to do? Let us practice the exercise of the cross, shall we? In a very positive way. During the next 24 hours, let us visualize ourselves aligned. Visualize like a line, a vertical line, throughout ourselves and pulling us to the connection with heaven, as Emmanuel said, in faith, and practice the affirmation. I trust in God. And then let's do the horizontal exercise. Visualize a line, inviting us to open our arms like Jesus and care for people, being benevolent towards people, saying, I love life. I trust in God. I love life. I accept the truth. Shall we? And visualize ourselves hugging Jesus, taking him out of the cross. Shall we? I will repeat the exercise. During the next 24 hours, let's find ways to practice this unity with the Christ, our Master. Visualize a line going across vertically and saying, repeating the affirmation, I trust in God. Thus, I love life. I embrace life. Right? And I accept the truth. Jesus is our Master. I accept Jesus, the Master, my Master Jesus. And we take him out of the cross, hug him dearly, and say, thank you, Jesus. Thank you so much for teaching us the way, the truth, and the life. This is it for today, friends. Let us rejoice this day with our Master Jesus in this practice so we can feel ever more fulfilled and useful in the very moment that we're living in this planet. Thank you, friends. Until tomorrow, God willing, here at Kardec Radio, nourishing our souls, right? With living in serenity